So hello, everyone, and welcome to the information session for the 2025 Great Lakes Summer Fellows Program, which is offered through a partnership between the Cooperative Institute for Great Lakes Research, known as SIGLR, at the University of Michigan, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA's Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory, also known as GLERL. We are excited to tell you about the program and explain the application process, including a few tips to help you with a successful application. When we're finished presenting, we'll visit the SIGLR website together, and we'll show you where to find the information we're presenting about the application and the application form. We'll allow plenty of time at the end to answer your questions. As we go along, please feel free to enter any questions into the Q&A section of the webinar, and we will either pause and answer them as we go, or we may hold those questions to the end, but you don't feel free to enter them as we talk, as they come to you. So we will begin with some quick introductions by the presenters and who are the primary administrative contacts for the program. So I am Mary Ogdahl. I'm the managing director of SIGLR, and I oversee the summer fellowship program. I coordinate with the mentors and our hosts at NOAA GLERL, and I maintain communication with the fellows throughout the program through biweekly one-on-one meetings. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague Margaret to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Margaret Throckmorton. I will be the one managing the daily program logistics. I'm also the primary point of contact for any questions regarding the application. During the fellowship, I will be the one organizing any activities as well as the main communications with the fellows.
Thank you, Margaret. Next, I'll give a little background on SIGLR and GLERL to give you a sense for where you'll be working if you join the program. So SIGLR is one of 16 NOAA-funded cooperative institutes across the country, which collectively represent 70 universities and research institutions across 28 states. Many of the cooperative institutes are co-located in NOAA research labs, just as SIGLR is with NOAA GLERL, and each have a unique research focus related to NOAA's mission and needs. The first NOAA Great Lakes Cooperative Institute was awarded to the University of Michigan in 1989, which began the now long-standing partnership between the University of Michigan and the NOAA Great Lakes Environmental Research Lab. As you can see on the map, we're located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right in the heart of the Great Lakes. SIGLR has a home in 2 locations. Our administrative home is at the University of Michigan and within the School for Environment and Sustainability that's shown on the left of the slide. And that is located on the University of Michigan's main campus in Ann Arbor. Our physical location and where we do our day-to-day work is at NOAA GLERL, where we're part of a blended scientific workforce. As a summer fellow, you will join a dynamic group of multidisciplinary researchers in a collaborative environment that is nearly evenly composed of academic and federal scientists. SIGLR's research falls within 4 main research themes that are complementary to NOAA's mission in the Great Lakes. Each of the fellowship positions we have available fall into one or more of these research themes and directly contribute to ongoing research at SIGLR and GLERL. These research themes are shown on the slide, and theme 1 is observing systems and advanced technology. Theme 2 is invasive species and food web ecology. Theme 3 is hydrometeorological and ecosystem forecasting. And theme 4 is protection and restoration of resources. SIGLR complements all of our great research and puts it into action through our ECO program. It is through this program that we connect our science to society and really make an impact for the good of the Great Lakes. The components of this program are engagement, where we work directly with stakeholders, research managers, elected officials, and others to develop the tools and information they need to make informed decisions that protect and restore the Great Lakes. Career training, where we provide research training opportunities to students and postdocs who will become the future scientific stewards of Great Lakes of the Great Lakes, and outreach, through which we communicate our research and educate the public about the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes Summer Fellows Program is one of the primary means by which we fulfill our career training mission within the ECO program. Although we do have other fellowship and training programs in Sigler, the Summer Fellows Program is the cornerstone for how we are building and training the next generation of NOAA and Great Lakes scientists. So now I'll hand it over to Margaret to give details about the program itself.
Hello all. So in the next few slides, I'll be going over some of the highlights about the program itself. First, we'll start with an overview. The fellowship has been trained 371 students since 1998. It, as Mary said, is funded by NOAA GLERL. Program goals, the main one is to train the next generation of Great Lakes scientists and NOAA scientists, as well as to increase diversity in STEM fields. This year, we have 7 fellowship positions, but like every year, it's a 12-week program. We do expect all fellows to start the program on May 27th and end on August 16th, working the equivalent of 40 hours a week during that period. This includes attending orientation on the 27th, as well as presenting everyone's projects in the last week of the program. In the past, any virtual fellows we've had have joined us in person in Ann Arbor to present. We do get a lot of questions about starting or ending the program on a different schedule, but due to the nature of the program and all of our scheduled activities, we can't offer any flexible start and end dates. However, we do understand everyone has special circumstances, and we're happy to have a conversation about any special needs you may have. So keep that in mind. Like I said, with activities, we schedule a bunch for each fellow cohort. These are meant to build both professional and personal interpersonal skills, as well as knowledge. We do a lot of career training. We found that a large part of enriching the fellows' experience in the program comes from building community both within the cohort and within the lab. We take into account preferences and abilities of the fellows when planning all program activities, such as career and professional development. Those can cover topics such as applying to governmental positions, networking, resume and cover letters, as well as technical skill development, such as Python coding or R or any of those. Additionally, you'll work with our Sigler's communication specialist to build science communication skills. We weekly science seminars. So those, you'll learn more about the amazing science we do at GLERL and Sigler directly from our primary investigators and researchers who work on site as well as in the field. Social activities, which are always fun. In the past, this has included activities such as escape rooms, kayaking, picnics, and more. Traditionally, fellows have organized their own camping trip over at least one weekend during the program. A popular destination for fellows is to actually head up north and explore areas such as the Sleeping Bear Dunes, which is so much fun. Traditionally, many of these activities, including the social activities, are for in-person fellows, but we do try to include any virtual fellows. Most of the professional career and science talks have been more easily adapted to a hybrid model for virtual attendance, although there are some talks and activities, of course, which involve hands-on experiences and learning. Such as our educational cruise we schedule on NOAA GLERL's largest boat, the Laurentian. Format, we have 7 positions, like I said, and they include options for different modes of participation. We highly recommend the in-person experience, as mentioned before, as we have those in-person learning activities, which are important for the overall learning experience. If you do need to work remotely or in a hybrid manner, this can be discussed, but these options will depend on project activities. Each project has different requirements in the format, so please read the descriptions carefully to determine which requirements each project might have. Additionally, we encourage you to discuss your format preferences in the interview stage with the mentors so that everyone is on the same page. Upon acceptance of the program, we will going too fast again. We will reach out to all of the fellows to determine housing and transportation needs, as well as provide assistance and advice as needed. This includes providing resources to find housing, or if you need local transportation to and from work, we can assist with that as well. As a reminder, each fellow is responsible for securing and paying for their own housing. Housing costs are figured into the fellowship stipend, so that hopefully will not be an issue. As a college town, Ann Arbor has ample summer sublet opportunities, and our fellows have traditionally been able to easily secure summer housing. We do encourage accepted fellows to go in together on housing to help with expenses as well as build community, and we will connect fellows before the program begins to coordinate any shared housing requests. Now for the stipend, as everybody loves to learn about the money. Any fellow will receive $10,000 paid over 4 dates, May 19th, June 16th, July 7th, and August 11th. The stipend starts before the program to provide support during the housing and search process. The stipend is meant to cover living expenses during the program, so that's housing, food, transportation, stuff like that. To receive the stipend, you must participate in the full 12 weeks, working 40 hours a week. If you are unable to complete the program, we'll have to talk about the stipend you have received. The travel stipend for any of those located outside of Southeast Michigan is $1,500. So this can be used towards expenses when you're moving to and from Ann Arbor for those working in person. Anyone who is working virtually will be able to use the stipend to visit Ann Arbor and work in person with their project teams 1 or more times a summer. And another requirement for this is the final presentation. It's 15 minutes with time for questions, and it is required of each fellow at the end of the program. Typically, we schedule this during the last week. It will be in person at GLERL with an option for virtual attendance for family and friends. We have adjusted the presentation format in the past, depending on the makeup of that year's cohort. And you can view all of these presentations online on our alumni page, which we'll show you later in the session. To be eligible for the program, you must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. This is no matter if you're in person or a virtual fellow. You must be one of the following: a currently enrolled college level junior or senior as of fall 2025, a master's or PhD student, or if you can demonstrate in your cover letter that the fellowship fits in with your career or academic goals, and you have graduated within the past 12 months of the fellowship, for example, May 2024 or after. As a final note, immediate relatives of any Sigler or NOAA GLERL employees are not eligible to participate due to NOAA guidelines.
Okay, thank you so much, Margaret. In the next several slides, I will review the application process in detail. And just a reminder, in case anybody came in late, if you have questions as we're stepping through these things, please feel free to enter them in the Q&A part of the webinar, and we'll either pause and address them immediately or answer them when we're done presenting. Okay, so we're going to go through the sections of the online application and discuss the documents you'll need to prepare and upload. And these documents include a cover letter, a resume, an unofficial transcript, an essay, and a letter of recommendation. The online application begins with 2 sections that collect general information about you. In addition to standard things like your name, address, and email, which are in section 1, section 2 asks for demographic information on your gender identity, race or ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. These demographic questions are completely optional, but they are very helpful for us to evaluate the effectiveness of our advertising and messaging for reaching a wide diversity of student applicants. We use this information to help us understand our success in meeting one of the primary program objectives that Margaret mentioned, to provide training opportunities to students from backgrounds traditionally underrepresented in STEM fields. In section 3 of the online application, you will be asked to select the projects in which you are interested. You may select up to 3 projects ranked in order from your first to your third choice. Selecting more than one project is optional, but we do highly recommend selecting at least 2 projects that interest you to increase your chances of being selected for an interview. Please review the position descriptions carefully, including the required skills when making your project selections. If you have any questions about the project requirements or the project itself, feel free to contact the lead mentor for that project, and their email address is included in the project description. In section 4 of the online application, you'll be asked to upload your application materials as a single document. The documents you'll be preparing and combining are your cover letter, a resume or a CV, an unofficial transcript, an essay, and perhaps your letter of recommendation. So I'll talk more about that in a second. Well, actually, right now, I guess. With regard to your letter, you may either obtain this from the letter writer and include it in your application, so include it in your single document, or you may contact your letter writer and have them send it to us. Either way is completely fine. It doesn't matter to us either way, whatever you prefer. But we do require that if your letter writer sends us the letter directly, it must reach us before or by the application deadline. So if you decide to go that route, please make sure that you give your letter writer enough time. So contact them enough in advance, because we have this happen every year where your professor is out in the field or they're away on travel and they can't make the deadline, or for other reasons they're teaching. So they're busy people. Keep that in mind. Give them enough time to write the letter. And then please make sure that you give them the deadline. This will help make sure your application package is complete in time for to meet the deadline. So letters that are sent directly to us are emailed to Margaret, and that information is all in the online application form. But please make sure the last thing you'll need to provide your letter writer is Margaret's email address. So give them enough time, give them a deadline, and give them Margaret's email address. Another point to emphasize here is the importance of uploading an unofficial copy of your transcript. So a lot of times you may only have a digital official copy of your transcript. And in that case, the best thing to do is either to scan it or take a picture of it, photograph it, and upload it. If when we receive your official transcripts, they're often password encrypted and protected, and they're difficult, if not impossible, for us to work with. Don't worry if that happens. We will contact you and straighten it out, but it really helps all of us if you can get an unofficial copy or a photograph of your official one sent with your application. All right, so for combining your files into one document, Adobe Acrobat is the easiest way to do this. If you don't have access to Adobe Acrobat, there are some third-party websites that are free and can help you do this. We have a link in the FAQ section of our website with more information about some of these options. And so we'll be showing you that here in a little bit when we get to the website demonstration. Okay, so next, we'd like to offer you some insider tips to help you prepare your application materials and increase your chances of a successful application. Starting with your cover letter. Your cover letter should be tailored to the project or projects you are selecting and highlight your skills and experience that are directly relevant to those projects. In your cover letter, we recommend taking some of the information from your essay to explain, so you're rewriting this essay. So take some of the information from the essay to explain what makes you a great and unique candidate for the position and the fellowship program in general. This might include why the fellowship would be meaningful to you. Also, as Margaret explained, if you're an applicant who graduated in 2024, you should be explaining in your cover letter how the program fits with your career or your academic goals. Similar to your cover letter, your resume should also be tailored to the project or projects to which you're selecting and highlight your relevant experience and skills. So really take a look carefully at what the required skills are for the projects you're interested in, and think about how you can show those in your resume and your cover letter. And last, when you're preparing your essay, really spend some time thinking about what makes you a unique applicant to the program. We're not necessarily looking for your major accomplishments, although we're happy to hear about those. We're really looking for your experiences or your identities that have helped to shape who you are as a person. This could be personal, professional, or academic. So it might help you to think about answering these questions. How would you add richness or diversity to the student cohort? And what would the fellowship mean to you if you were accepted to the program? So just a few tips that might help your application stand out and help you get an interview. So in the final section of the application, you'll be asked to provide names and contact information for 2 references whom we may contact regarding your qualifications. These could be professors, mentors, supervisors, or anyone you feel would best represent you and your experience, your potential, and your aspirations. The one restriction is that you cannot have a family member be one of your references. And the other point is that one of your references should be the person that you're asking to write your letter of recommendation. So you'll give us 2 names. One is the person writing the letter, and the other one could be any other person you think could speak best for you that's not a family member. All right, so next I'll talk a little bit about the process for application review and candidate selection. Once the application period is closed, the mentor teams for each project are given the applications for everyone who selected their project as their first, second, or third choice. The mentor teams review the applications and select a minimum of 3 applicants to interview. They will reach out via email, via the email that you provide on your application, to invite you to interview. And all of the interviews will be conducted by video conference. Last, we have a few timeline points to highlight regarding the application and selection process. As you may know, the applications and letters of recommendation are due to us on February 9th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. After that time, the online application will shut down and you will not be able to submit your application. So please make sure you check your time zone if it's different than ours, and get that in to us on time. We expect that interviews will be conducted between February 18th and March 7th, and that fellowship offers will be made between March 10th and March 14th. All of the applications will be notified of their status by March 21st. However, if you haven't heard from us by March 7th, which is kind of the end of the interview window, it's unlikely that you're being considered for a fellowship position. I do like to mention that because March 21st can be a long time to wait to hear back from us. And I know that a lot of you will probably have other fellowship applications or other opportunities that you're applying to for the summer. So that, March 7th, after that time, if you haven't heard, you're probably not getting an interview or getting considered. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to take down the slides and I will go through a short website demonstration. I'm looking at the Q&A section and it looks like we have some that Margaret has already answered. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for submitting your questions as we go along. And please keep submitting them. And okay, hold on a second. Oops, I'll go back and escape. Okay, sorry, I've got multiple screens going on here, so it's a challenge. All right, Margaret, can you please confirm that we're seeing the website now? Thumbs up, and everybody should be able to see my cursor here. So here I am on the main landing page for the Summer Fellowship Program. The URL, which you should be able to see at the top, is I've got to look down here, sigler.umish.edu/opportunities/student-fellowships. You can also just even Google Sigler Great Lakes Summer Fellowships, and it will be the first thing that pops up for you. So here's what this landing page looks like. I'm assuming many of you have already been here already since you're here at our webinar. I just want to point you to some key features on this page. First of all, we have a really nice video here on the left side. It's just a few minutes long. It gives a nice overview of the program, and some of the fellows from the past are featured in it as well. So hearing from them is sometimes a really nice way to learn about the program. I encourage you to check that out. Okay, so for the application, we've got this area here with these linked bullet points. The first one is the program description, eligibility, and how to apply. So I'm going to click there. And here you have a lot of what Margaret and I are talking about today in terms of, what the program description, the stipend payments, how all of that works. The travel stipend is all described there. Goes through the eligibility that Margaret reviewed, the other requirements like your presentations, and then explains the application process that I just described to you. So all of this is here on our website and available for you to reference as you are preparing to apply. This is also the page where you can access the online application. It's not accessible from the main landing page. We kind of want you to come here and review everything before you apply. So scrolling down, I will click the Apply Now button. And you can see our online application, starting with that first section where you're just entering your general information. So I'm going to get back out of here and go back to the main landing page. From here, we'll take a look at the 2025 position descriptions. So this is really important to review before you start your application because you're going to need to be choosing which projects you're interested in working on. So you're looking for definitely your first choice. We highly recommend a second choice, and then a third choice is optional for here. So the list of our 7 positions that we're offering for the summer are listed along with the mentors for each project. So you've got the project title, the mentors, and the email address for the lead mentor in case you have any questions about that project. Then on the right-hand side, this dropdown will describe what the project is about, the research questions that the project is addressing, the main project activities that you would be involved in, and the required skills for that project. Finally, the location, I believe is the same for all the projects this year, is at the NOAA Great Lakes Environmental Research Lab, remote or hybrid. Again, as Margaret said, we do have the flexibility to offer remote fellowships or hybrid where you might work sometimes from home and sometimes here at the GLERL facility. But we really do highly recommend the in-person experience. From our many years of doing this program, we know that you really will get the most out of it if you're here with us in Ann Arbor. But if you're not able to do that, we completely understand, and we do have ways to involve you and engage you in almost all of the program components if you are remote. And as Margaret mentioned, you would have the opportunity to visit with that $1,500 travel stipend. And that's been a very nice thing to do with our remote fellows, to bring them in. And we try to time those visits with some of the more special event type things that we do so that you can participate in those. All right, so a couple other things to point out on the website. We have an FAQ page. So as you go through, I'm sure you're going to have questions that pop up and come to mind as you're working on your application or thinking more about the program. I highly encourage you to check the FAQ page. As we've gone through the years of the program, we have entered in questions that we tend to get asked. So very likely that your question is answered on this page. Of course, if it is not, we are more than happy to answer your emails, and Margaret is your main point of contact for that, and her email address is here at the top of the page. So like I said, we have answers to many of our common questions, categorized by eligibility type questions, questions about the application process, um, different questions about program logistics. And yeah, those are our three main categories. So I'm trying to, thanks for putting that in the chat, Margaret. So looking at these, I'm going to look to see if there are some like really common questions that we get. I would say, let's see, Margaret already touched on the flexibility of program dates. That's one of the top questions that we get. Again, we really, for a number of reasons, we have limited flexibility on a different start date. However, we do like to make the program as accessible as possible for as many students as possible. So please contact us with any other needs you have in terms of start date, and we'll let you know if your particular situation would work with the program. We're always happy to have those kind of conversations. You do get 2 paid holidays during the fellowship, 1 paid holiday during the fellowship program, because we are starting after Memorial Day this year. Thank you, Margaret. So you will get the July 4th holiday as a paid day off. Other time off during the program is something that we will discuss. So if you have a family event or if you have something else you need to do and you're not here, you will discuss that with your mentor and you'll discuss it with me. And we'll talk about whether you will be making up that time or whether it's just excused time. Most of the time, we are able to work things out to where fellows are able to make up the time and still work their full amount. But in cases of sickness, illness, things like that, or injury, that would be more of a discussion of, maybe not making that time up. We certainly don't want people having to come to work when they're sick or injured. Margaret touched on the housing. Trying to think, Margaret, are there any other FAQs that you would like to directly address here?
Sorry, I was answering questions. Um, I, I mean, I think the ones I've gotten this year so far are about the program dates, housing, time off. We have a couple questions I don't know have made to the FAQ list that I decided we should answer for everyone. But let me, I don't know, let me look at this myself. Can't read from there.
While you're looking, the other
Yeah.
thing that came to mind is that we do provide, Margaret might have touched on this, but if you come to Ann Arbor and you don't have, or if you're in Ann Arbor, it doesn't matter, if you don't have transportation to get from your place that you're living to the Noah Glural facility, we do have the ability to provide a rental car that you can share with yourself and any other fellows that also are in a situation where they need transportation. Because the Noah Glural is not on any public transportation route, unfortunately. So we will make sure you can get back and forth to work, but that one caveat is that rental vehicle can only be used for that purpose. So you can't use it to go grocery shopping or to go out to dinner with friends or whatever it is you're doing. It really can only be used to go back and forth to work, according to university policy, because we're renting from the university fleet pool.
So yes, whom should I ask to write my letter of recommendation? That is in the frequently asked questions, and we have a question about that. Does the contact reference have to be in STEM?
No, it does not. So it can really be anyone. It can be somebody from from one of your other activities that you do that's totally not related to STEM. Anybody that can really speak on behalf of your, maybe your qualifications that's outside of STEM. It might not be your technical qualifications to the position. It might be just about who you are as a person, what you aspire to do, or their experience knowing you in whatever capacity that is. And so, no, it does not have to be anyone in STEM. And that certainly would have no bearing on the success of your application. Really, we're just looking for somebody that can reflect on who you are and your I don't want to say it doesn't have to be technical qualifications, but how you may do in this type of program.
Okay. In a similar vein, we have a question about previous experiences. I don't think we have a frequently asked question about, but we might need to add it. They want to know if previous experiences that are preferred, such as a previous lab or field experience. My eyes turned off for a second.
So experiences are, if that will stand out more in an application. I will say a couple of things about that. I'm not sure if this is exactly what's being asked, but we don't typically require that you have previous experience. We really are trying very hard to tailor these positions so that they are open to students that might have maybe some coursework in this area, but not necessarily a lot of previous hands-on experience. So our mentors are prepared to provide training in any areas that you might need. That said, there are some requirements that you would need to have, but I'm guessing I'm not quite answering the question. Can you say it one more time, Margaret?
Are there any previous experiences that are preferred, such as previous lab or field experience?
Okay. Yeah, and that would be project dependent. So you will need to look at each project and those requirements. So I'm not really able to answer that as a blanket kind of across all of the projects. I will say this year, a lot of our projects do involve coding. And so if you have experience in that, that could be beneficial for some of those projects. But it really is kind of project specific in terms of what prior experience might be beneficial to those projects. But again, in most cases, it's not required that you have that. Okay, do we have any other questions in the Q&A? Okay, great.
We've done that one. Do the fellowships often lead to more full-time positions with Sigler or other organizations involved through the mentors?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I can say that, I mean, if you look statistically at the number of times that's happened versus, I don't know if I would say often, but it does happen. It certainly does happen. We have several staff members here at Sigler that have worked with us more like maybe in a temporary position after their fellowship that led to a full-time, long-term position. We have had fellows that, leave and finish their degree and then come back and apply for a job. And, we recognize them and they've got obviously very applicable experience after working with us for a summer. And that definitely does give those individuals an advantage over other applicants because they've worked here, they're familiar with our research, and they have direct training that's related to the research we have going on. So yes, that does happen. And it's, one of the objectives of the program is to help build our workforce and train students directly in the skills that we need to do our research. But we can't make any promises, of course.
We also had fellows that get admitted to the PhD program here with under their mentor. So that's always an option as well. I do want to answer this one. This is about training. I'm interested in learning more about R and Python. It was mentioned that fellows could receive mentorship learning about these programs. How would that work? And could you explain more? So during your mentorship, your projects, you will talk with your mentors about what you want to learn, and they will manage that fellowship and help you learn those things. But as for those professional development options, we will schedule trainings around what you would like to learn. So in the past, we have done Intro to Python and Intro to R for all of the fellows. So if that's something of interest to you, uh, we will be in touch about what you want to learn throughout the summer that's not necessarily related to your project. And we will do our best to make sure that we cover all those areas. I hope that answers everything. So there's multiple ways you could get that training. And then are certain projects or areas, water monitoring versus invasive species management, that are more popular than others. I didn't know if you want to answer that or if I should.
Sure, I can try, Owen. And how about if I don't answer your question, because I'm not exactly sure what you might mean by popular, but please follow up and ask again if I'm not quite answering. So um, I'm wondering if you might be asking more popular as in, do we receive more applications for some of those projects than others? If that's the case, I think it really varies by the applicant pool and who's interested in what that year. So I don't see, I wouldn't say one of those areas is more popular than another in terms of the number of applications we get to those types of projects. Yeah, if that didn't answer your question, Owen, I think I might need you to ask again with maybe rephrase it a little bit so I understand a little more what you're asking. In the meantime, oh,
Oh,
I was looking at the question that disappeared.
Sorry, I just answered it because it was very similar to the R and the coding question that I answered earlier. Yes, we will help you learn what you want to learn. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big part of what you do with, as Margaret mentioned, with your mentors, and also we take a survey of all the mentors in the beginning of the fellowship to better understand their interests and needs. And Margaret leaves space in the program schedule so that we can fill in with those activities and trainings that you all are interested in. So we plan as much in advance as we can, but there's a lot that we plan after the cohort is selected because we want to make sure that it really is tailored to your interests and your needs. Okay, so seeing no more questions in the Q&A for now, I'm going to go leave the FAQ page and just show you a couple more things quickly. And if more questions come to mind, please enter them in. So as Margaret mentioned, we have alumni pages on the website, and this is a really great way also to learn more about the program and maybe get inspired for your applications, I think. So I'm going to look at the 2024 cohort. So here you can see all of the fellows that we had in the program last year. And what you might want to check out is two things. So for each of the fellows, we have the recording of their final presentation that they gave at the end of the fellowship. If you're interested in hearing from the fellows themselves about their projects, what they learned, that's a really great way to do it. The presentations, it's about 15 minutes long each. You could always replay it in, 1.5 or 2 times if you wanted to get through it a little faster. But that's a great way to learn about the program and get inspired. And especially if you are applying to a position that might be similar to one of these, that might be a good thing to do as well, as to look at the final presentation for that project. The other thing here that would be interesting for you all to check out is we do put together a feature video for each fellow that comes through the program. We are still working on the videos for a lot of the 2024 cohort. There are a few listed here, such as for Brandon's, Abigail. So we have a couple here. We have more of these summer fellow feature videos if you go back further. So if you want to look at 2023, each of the fellows here has a video that you can watch and hear from them again about their experience in the program, their favorite parts about the program, what they researched, who they worked with. So those are also very informative and inspiring for you all to watch. And
I will
speaking
say,
of the
oh,
previous question, sorry, Margaret. So Tate here, while we're on this page
yeah.
and the question, going back to the question about, do people come back and work with us right here on top. So Tate is a great example. Tate worked with us as a summer fellow, and then she came back across the country again and came to work with us as a temporary employee, and then was recently hired as a full-time, long-term employee, permanent staff with us. So that has been really wonderful to bring that past fellow back. And right next to her, Naomi she was a student at the University of Puerto Rico. And upon graduating with her master's degree there, she came back to University of Michigan, and now she's in a PhD program, working actually in the lab of Sigler's director, Greg Dick. So we were very happy to have two of the 2023 fellows come back and join us after they were done.
I was just going to say the past year's fellow feature videos will be uploaded slowly over the next few weeks. They're just being finalized. We had some technical difficulties.
Yep.
Um,
Thanks for that, Margaret.
yeah.
So, okay, so that's where you can find all of that. And then the current cohort button really just takes you to the 2024. So that's kind of the layout of everything on the page here. The last thing I will mention is that this third bullet that has the link for the Zoom for the information session, we will replace that with a link to access the recording for the info session. So if you want to come back and rewatch any of this, or if you have friends that might be interested in the program as well, but weren't able to make it today, you can point them to that link that we'll have up here as soon as possible. It'll probably take us a few days to get the video processed and linked up there. Okay, so we've got a couple more questions. Is there anything we should include in our application specifically that would help us stand out, or what are mentors looking for besides experience? Okay, so yeah, we do have some recommendations there. So of course you'll want to look carefully at the positions that you've selected for your first, second, third choice, and make sure that your application really brings out your experience related to the requirements and the activities for that position. So that what I think is like the key number one thing. The other thing that we're looking for, of course, is related to the essay that we're asking you to write, which we're looking there for what makes you a unique applicant. So what would you bring to the program? What makes you well-rounded? What are some unique experiences you have? Is there something unique about your identity or your background that would bring diversity and richness to our program? So those are the other things that we're looking for in the application. We really, like we've emphasized, we hope to use the program to provide experiences to students that might not otherwise have these experiences. So we're looking to give students opportunities that might have in their situation just not have had exposure to this type of work before. So trying to open up doors for students like that. So if those kinds of things resonate or apply to you, include that in your application, your cover letter for sure. Anything else you would add to that, Margaret?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. How many PhD graduate and undergraduate students partake in the program? It really varies year by year. I would say we usually have, oh boy, I don't know if I could say usually, but I'd say in any given year, we have maybe half of the cohort being graduate students and half being undergraduate. Um, there's a lot of variability there. I think there are some years that we've had almost all undergrads. There's other years we've had almost all graduate students. And then within the graduate students, um, boy, we typically have a couple of PhD students and, then the rest masters. But again, there's just a lot of variability. I will say that one of the things that we emphasize when we're working with the mentors is to develop projects that are scalable. And that's one of the things that we use when we're evaluating. So we go through a whole process before we get to this point where we are having mentors propose projects to us. And so in the development of those projects and those proposals, one of the things that we are looking for when we're accepting their projects to be included in the program is, can this project be done by a an undergraduate who's coming into their junior year just as easily as it, not as easily, but would it be just as suitable for them as it would be a PhD student? Do they have the ability to slide it to less experience for an undergrad that might not, this all might be brand new to them, and then make it more challenging and add more components for a PhD student. So that's how all of the projects are actually designed. So I would not be concerned as an applicant about, oh, I'm an undergrad. I'm not really sure that, this project is for me. Don't worry about that. If it's something that's interesting to you and is in line with your career objectives and what you think you want to do, or if it's something you just want to gain exposure to and you meet the minimum requirements, please go ahead and select that. Likewise, if you're a PhD student, you think, boy, I'm not sure I'll be challenged by this. Your mentors will make it so. And with your input and with learning about you and what you're studying, what you're researching, they'll tailor it to you with your input. Okay. Yeah, so next question. Do you recommend reaching out to the researcher who is doing the project that I'm interested in? I will say if you have specific questions, I would reach out to them and ask them. This is a really competitive program. We typically have well over 200 applicants. Any given project may have more than 40 to 50 people that have selected it as their first, second, or third choice. And so if every single one of those people reaches out to the mentors, and they're obviously bombarded, we don't want to discourage you from contacting them if you really do have questions that would help you write your application, or questions that would help you determine if you can't figure out maybe which project is your first choice or your second choice, or if this one is even in line with what you're interested in. Yeah, please reach out to them with those kinds of questions. But if it's just kind of like an introduction and to get your application to the top of the pile, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, although it's not going to hurt you if you do that. But we do like to also be mindful of the mentor's time as well. And that's why we also, if it's not a project related question, if it's nothing to do with the research itself, if it's anything else about the program, your best resource is first the FAQ page. And if you don't find it there, then you contact Margaret. And if you don't really know who to ask the question to, then contact Margaret and she can funnel you in the right direction. Okay. Do we write one cover letter for the entire fellowship or write one for each program we would like to apply for? That's a wonderful question. You will just be submitting one cover letter. So in that cover letter, I've seen applicants do this a couple of different ways, but typically they might have, one paragraph that addresses their interest and qualifications for their first choice project, and then another, paragraph or set of sentences for their second choice project, if it is distinct enough to have those two sections. But depending on what the two projects are, some of our projects are pretty closely related to one another. So you can mention, these are the projects I'm interested in, and here's why, and here's how I'm qualified to do it. But bottom line is one letter, and I would definitely address in the letter the projects you're interested in.
I would also like to point out something I added to a couple different questions I answered. These mentors and the mentor teams are going to be reviewing a lot of applications, so make sure everything is relevant. Keep it as short and sweet as possible. You don't want to overwhelm the readers, and give them some grace as well.
But we thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We're really happy that you found the program, you found the webinar, and we look forward to seeing your applications.
And You are very welcome. Again, if you think of any questions, let us know.
Right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.